recession fears faded amid strong economic growth. I mean, the third quarter first look GDP report just came out with a staggering 4.7% growth rate. I need to compare that for you to the second quarter, which was a 2.1%. That means that we had an economic growth rate more than double from the second quarter 2023. Did you feel it? I didn't feel that. And when you start to peel back the layers of this report, I'm not 100% sure that all Americans actually felt that. In fact, real disposable income actually dropped and went negative 1%. When I say real disposable income, I'm talking about inflation adjusted. That's compared to an increase of 3.5% in the second quarter. Savings also went down. We were saving 5.2% of our income in the second quarter. Now in the third quarter, only 3.8%. So we're saving less. 80% of Americans have run out of their stimulus savings. We've put $1 trillion on credit card debt, and our real disposable income is actually negative 1%. Yet it was personal spending and government spending that propagated a 4.7% growth rate in the third quarter. How long can that really last? Before I get into the second report, make sure that you've subscribed to this channel to not miss out on any of our economic or mortgage and housing data. Also, give us a thumbs up on this video or comment down below. Would love to get engaged. All right, so now that second report that came out that showed strong economic growth was the initial jobless claims. It was up 10,000 people, but that's not really a big number from such a low historic number. What did go up slightly was the continued claims. Those folks who went on unemployment are having a really hard time finding another job. They're simply staying on unemployment, which is counterintuitive compared to the JOLTS report that came out showing that we actually had an increase of over 9 million jobs available, which goes to show, is that report really accurate, or is it employers across the country that are showing multiple job openings for the same actual job? The third report in our triple whammy was the durable goods report. Durable goods was up 4.7% this last month. That's compared to the previous month actually being down 0.1%. We only expected a 1.7% growth, but instead we got a 4.7%. Now, durable goods are those things that last over a year. Think about that for a second. People are spending money not just on the temporary items or the entertainment or the hotels and airfare, but also on durable goods. Now, there is one thing inside this report that's supporting a higher number than what I would think we would see, and that's in Boeing sales of aircraft carriers. So all three of these reports showing strong economic strength is uninverting our inverted yield curve. So what does that mean? We've had an inverted yield curve since early 2022 showing us that we were headed into a recession. That's where short-term yields are higher than long-term yields. And if you think about it, it shouldn't work that way. If I hold an investment for a longer period of time, I would expect that I would get a greater rate of return on that longer-term investment. But that's not happening. What we're seeing is an over 5% on the 2-year Treasury yields versus a slightly under 5% yield on the longer-term 10-year Treasuries. That inverted yield curve typically tells us that we're headed into a recession. Well, it's uninverting, which is telling us that we might skip the recession altogether. But we're not uninverting for the right reasons. We're uninverting due to a bear steepening. That bear steepening means that the long-term yields are going higher for longer, which we know is going to cost both individuals and businesses more in the long run. It's also going to cost us more in the housing industry as long-term mortgage rates continue to stay high, and it's going to have a long-term lagging impact on our economy. With the 2 and 10-year yields uninverting, we know that that 10-year Treasury yield is most closely related to our 30-year mortgage rate. So we turn our attention now to how high is the 10-year Treasury yield going, And then what is the spread between the 10-year Treasury yield and the 30-year fixed mortgage? Remember, right now, we're not seeing the historic 1.65% spread. We're seeing a 3% spread. So instead of waiting with bated breath for the 10-year Treasury yield to come down, what instead we're looking at is, will inflation, will the geopolitical risks, will next year's election have any impact on our 10-year Treasury, 30-year fixed mortgage rate spread, which now that 3% spread with a 5% 10-year Treasury is giving us 8% interest rates. Well, we'll continue to watch as this news unpacks and our economic strength continues to hold resilient or start to wane, giving us in the housing industry some ray of hope that we might see mortgage rates slow down in their increase and possibly even give us a slight retraction.